G'day all, it's Colin from PCTLC and thanks for joining me. In this video we're going to be taking a look at dual booting Solus Budgie with another OS. So we're going to change the settings on here. I've already got Ubuntu installed on there, which I was going to dual boot with anyway on my laptop, but it didn't work, so I couldn't get the screen recorder installed. So we're going to do it in VirtualBox. So you can see here on the system I have EFI set up. So that's the way I'm going to do that. So we're going to put in the Solus Budgie ISO, connect that up and OK, and let's start. So that's a typical screen that you're seeing there for EFI. There's a big difference between the grub boot and the EFI boot. So there we have the Budgie desktop. So we're going to install that. Let's just view full screen mode on that, that's better. And as you would have seen in the Gnome and desktop install, everything is exactly the same. Just installing a different OS. Find my location automatically. Australia West, yep. And English Australian, yeps. And Australia Perth. Now, this is what we're going to do. We're going to install a fresh copy of Solus alongside your existing operating system. You can choose how much space Solus should use in the next screen. This will resize Ubuntu 18.10. So I've done this with Windows and it works quite okay. That was a while ago. It's probably more than maybe 18 months, 2 years ago. I installed alongside Windows and I was trying that out. So I know that that works. So here we go. So this is going to be your new Solus installation, and then you got your Ubuntu here. So that's going to be the new size, 6.54 gigs. So can we up that? And then that goes down. Okay, there you go. So we'll give that 10, we'll give this, we'll just even that out a little bit. Now the interesting thing would be if we had a multi-boot situation and we choose to install alongside, does it give us the option of all the others that are installed? I'm not sure. I doubt it. I may have to try that. And again, there's no choosing here because I'm installing alongside. So we'll call this Solus Virtual. A username, that's all lowercase in the username. And add now, and next, and install. Okay. So normally Solus doesn't take long to install. Couple of minutes, few minutes should be done normally, but this is going to take longer because we are resizing the partitions, so obviously that is going to take longer. Right, so that's the Solus installation complete. We shall restart and see what's offered in the boot menu. And let's restart. Right. So that's interesting. We went straight to Solus. Why is that? That's probably happened because I forced it to shut down, so we'll try again. Boot failed EFI. So we've adjusted the size of the disk for Ubuntu, but however, it has not come to the party, has it? So if we change the settings without UEFI, so turn off the EFI and let's see what we get now. Because Ubuntu's on EFI, it doesn't want to boot because it's meant to be on EFI, and Solus doesn't boot either because it needs to be on EFI, but it doesn't use a grub. So, so it looks like Solus is a very difficult operating system to dual boot with. So if you are keen on Solus, best way to go with Solus would be to just use it on its own. But I'm very sure that if you did that with Windows, it would definitely work. Well, it used to, but maybe they've changed their Goofy Boot and their Clear Boot. I think it's called Clear Boot. So maybe they've changed everything, I don't know. So best experience with Solus is to put it on a machine that you want Solus only or a separate hard drive, and you choose your hard drive from your boot device menu, which would be F8 or F12 or something like that. On one of mine it's F8, so on a couple of mine it's F8 actually, I think. And then you can choose the disk. That's if you're on a desktop. That would be easier. On a laptop, maybe a bit harder because most laptops don't have 2 disks. The more expensive ones do. So you'd be relying on partitions, exactly what I'm doing here. So that's probably a no-go. All right, so we've done another install here, and let's have a look at the settings on VirtualBox. If we go to System, you'll see that the EFI has not been enabled, so we are booting in legacy mode. So I've already installed Ubuntu, so let's have a quick look. So I have to reinstall in legacy mode to see what happens with this one. So just to confirm that that's booting away. And there we have Ubuntu. So we'll shut that down. So what we're going to do now is we're going to install Solus Budgie, same as the one before. This is in legacy mode, and we're going to install alongside again and see if we get a dual boot in legacy mode. So you see the difference there in legacy mode. There's a big difference in the screen on legacy mode as opposed to EFI. Well, we're going to have to shut down and start again because something's gone wrong there. give that another go. Alright, so let's just have a look at our settings here, see if we can change something. Display. All should be good, but I don't know why it's doing that. Sometimes this has happened 3 or 4 times in a row anyway. We'll try again. The only other thing I can do is disable 3D. Okay, so this is the situation. I cannot get Budgie to boot up in the live system on legacy. So I've tried many things, many different settings, but it's just not happening. Now, the other thing that does happen is if I change that to Solus, a Gnome, then it works. So that's interesting too. So let's try the Gnome desktop and we boot that. And this is in legacy. Now, bearing in mind, in my in the previous part of the video, we did Solus Budgie on EFI, and that was booting fine. However, it doesn't want to boot in legacy on VirtualBox, but it boots in EFI. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and install Gnome, because I still had the same issue with Gnome on EFI, that it didn't offer a dual boot with Linux. So we're going to try with this one. Install a fresh copy of Solus alongside your existing operating system. So let's go next. So you can see the Ubuntu there. So let's even that up a little bit. That'll do. And off we go. So I'll install this. I'll come back just as it's finished installing, and then we'll check out what we have, or what options we have when booting. Okay, we have finished the install of Solus Gnome. So let's restart that now and see what's on offer. Okay, so we have the option of booting Ubuntu and the option of booting Solus. So that's working in legacy with the Gnome anyway. I'm not sure about the Budgie because it won't even boot. So we'll just have a look, make sure Solus is booting. Okay, so there's no question there that Solus is booting, not a problem at all. So I just don't know why the Budgie does not boot. That's got me a bit stumped. I really don't know what's going on with that one, because that's the one I was targeting more so than the Gnome desktop ISO. No, it doesn't want to boot. It looks like a graphics problem, but it shouldn't be. I mean, the Gnome one starts up fine, so I don't know what's going on with that one. So the things that I've tried to show you at the end of this video here, some of the things I have tried is no mode set. So we get rid of that quiet splash and we put no mode set. And you get a slightly wider screen and a bit more colours, but really nothing to look at. So the other thing I tried was no mode set equals 0. That still didn't work. So the one thing I haven't tried is, let's try this one, because they are very keen on Intel, I believe. So if we try, let's do this again one more time. I believe it's i915.modeset. Equals 0. That should force Intel, I believe. Actually, no, it's probably 1 forces Intel. And that still doesn't work as well, that one there, so I'll try one more with the equals 0. So there is nothing that wants to make that boot whatsoever. That's I really don't know what's going on there. So the only thing we've achieved here is we can dual boot Solus in legacy mode, according to VirtualBox anyway. May have to try a legacy mode on real hardware. So here we are in Ubuntu Budgie. I'm going to be setting up my disk in gparted. So what's happened here is I have 9 distros here in which none of them will boot up because of the Solus install. So I have to pretty much, effectively delete them all and start again. They were only test drives anyway, so that's all right. I'm not losing really anything. So what I'm going to do here, first of all, is just delete everything here. Now, what I'm going to do now, I've got the opportunity, I'm going to delete all of these, even the, especially the boot partitions, because they're the corrupted ones the most. So we'll just delete all those anyway. So let's do that. So there goes 9 distros. So what I'm going to do here, my goal is I'm going to install, I'm booting under legacy. I'm going to follow up with my VirtualBox video for real hardware. I'm going to install, I might just install Ubuntu Budgie. It doesn't really matter whether it's Ubuntu or whatever it is. Maybe for consistency, I could probably do Ubuntu. This video was just to show you the disk change. So I'm going to set up another disk and probably just install directly to that partition and then try and install alongside. So maybe for consistency purposes, I may actually do Ubuntu. And probably after this, I will go back to EFI and I'll make some more partitions, but I'll probably reduce that. I'm probably finding I'm not using as many partitions as I was. I was just keeping an eye on, it's just handy to be able to boot into some of these other operating systems without reinstalling, but yeah, I think I won't worry about that. Okay, so that's been successful, and the disk is probably saying, thank goodness he's got rid of all those because he's overworking me. So let's just create just one partition here. Let's add that. We don't, because it's legacy, we don't need a boot partition. We just go directly to the MBR. So we'll do it that way. Now I can probably show you the install of Ubuntu or whatever I install, but I probably won't be able to show you the Solus one because I cannot install Simple Screen Recorder. What I'll do is I'll probably do the Ubuntu install and then I'll follow on. I'll take a picture of the boot screen and then from after that I'll install Solus and take another picture of the boot screen. Hopefully we've got some options to boot something else with. So let's close that. Okay, so I'm going to shut down and we will see you in probably a Ubuntu install. Okay, so here we are in Ubuntu. So I'm going to install Ubuntu under legacy mode on my Toshiba laptop. Not plugged into power source. We can solve that problem. There we go. Australia Perth. So we'll have to do a manual install here to this one here. XT4 and root. Okay. Someone there, you got your swap there, and install to master boot record on device SDA. Next. And away we go. Now the only problem I could run into here is the fact that Solus Budgie doesn't boot under legacy. I would hope that it does. I would hope that that's only a VirtualBox issue, something that I'm unaware of, but I have had that problem before on other distros and ended up messing around and getting it going, but really don't remember how. So okay, so we are all done installing Ubuntu. So I shall boot into it once and then shut down, and then we'll have a look at the boot screen after that and see what's going on there. So here we are in Ubuntu on my Toshiba laptop under legacy, first boot. Just to report that there was no grub screen at all. It just booted directly into Ubuntu because there's nothing else booting with it. So that's the behavior that we've got at the moment. So now I'm going to install Solus Budgie and see whether we get a dual boot menu on startup. Okay, so we are on the live disk of Ubuntu Budgie, and I was unsuccessful with the install of Solus, and I shall show you why. So if we have a look at these pictures here, the only option I had on legacy boot was Solus was erase all content on this disk and assign mount points, which is what I chose. And then I chose that one, which is where Ubuntu was installed, and then the only option I had for Bootloader was the USB. So that does me no good whatsoever. So I don't know what's going on there. Now the only thing I can say is I need to delete the whole disk, and I need to just install straight out without choosing a partition, and then maybe that will work. I've got some data on the drive there. I don't really want to delete it at this point, so but I'm a bit surprised. So what we're going to do here is we're going to install under legacy Ubuntu Budgie and see if we have the option of installing alongside. So let's just try that. So it's detected that we have the following disk mounted, SDD. So let's go yes. So we're going to attempt to unmount that. I don't think that's the, I'm pretty sure that's not the USB, or maybe it was. Oh, here we go. So there we go. So now we've got the option of installing Ubuntu Budgie alongside Ubuntu 18.10. So I'm getting that option with Ubuntu Budgie, but not with Solus Budgie. Now, as you've seen, the only options in Solus Budgie that I had was erase all content or assign mount points. And I assigned that mount point there. I was hoping that it might have given me an option, but no, and it didn't even give me a bootloader option either. So I have a feeling that I don't believe that this would be the normal behavior intended by the Solus group. There's got to be something that's missing there in the Solus Budgie ISO or something. I'm not really sure. Maybe there's just something missing in that ISO somewhere. So I've gone far enough down the rabbit hole with this one. I think we can just say that we definitely need I probably need to go that one step further and just do a complete install on the disk and just wipe the disk completely with Ubuntu first. And then try Solus Budgie. I'm not sure whether that would work either. But definitely, regardless whether it was installed directly to a partition, it should still recognize that there's another operating system there, I believe. So that's Solus Budgie legacy boot, still failing at this point in time. Alongside of another Linux distro. Okay, so we are in Ubuntu. I've just installed a Gparted in Ubuntu. So we're going to, it's actually not showing up, so I probably need to log out. So we'll do it from the terminal. Gparted, yep, there we go. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete everything here, my data disk as well. I don't believe there's anything on there that I really need. It's just sharing some data between all the operating systems, but nothing critical. So let's turn swap off. That was a right click and swap off. And we'll delete that. We'll delete this, and we shall delete that, and apply and apply. So now we've got a full disk, unallocated, and I'm going to see if Ubuntu will install directly to that with a standard install, no messing around with partitions or anything like that. So let's do it. And yep, no errors. Okay, erase disk. This will delete all data currently present on the selected storage device. So we just install erase disk. Replaces a partition with Ubuntu. No, let's just do that one. And bootloader is master boot record, dev SDA, that's correct. That's the start of the disk. Okay, and let's install now. So this will be a complete install to the disk, and then we'll see whether Solus will boot with this under legacy. So that'll be interesting to see. Okay, so that's Ubuntu installed. So we shall, so I will check out and see whether we can install Solus alongside Ubuntu, whether we got the option or not. We'll check that out. Right, so just have a quick look here at the install of Solus alongside Ubuntu 18.10 under legacy boot using a full disk install. So this is what we got here. So install a fresh copy of Solus alongside your existing operating system. So that was all looking good. And then we had that situation there, left that by default. I left it as default and went through the usual procedure there. Add now and install and completed. So that all looked good. And then we got to the grub boot screen and we were looking just as good. So that's the boot screen there. And now, as you can see, we've got options to boot into both operating systems. So all was looking good at that point, and then we got to this point here. That's first boot of Ubuntu. A bit of an error happening there. Might be able to read that one better. And then, so I decided to do a second boot. And that's what we got on second boot. So that's failed as well. So it sort of worked, but Ubuntu is not booting. So I'm not really sure what's going on there with Solus Budgie, and probably Solus in general. The Gnome ISO seems to be a little bit more user-friendly, but probably still have these issues, I would say. So what we're going to do is, I've been using Ubuntu 18.10 for these videos, so I don't have any bias in this video at all. And for the sake of testing, while I've got the computer completely, set up for legacy, full disk install and so forth, I'm just going to use a standard Ubuntu 18.04, and I'm going to do another install with that and install Solus alongside that to see if we get a different result, just in case I'm throwing myself off by using just one distro. So it'd be silly to do this whole video with just the one distro. I really need to try it with something else, and Ubuntu is probably the best choice, standard Ubuntu, and we'll see how we go with that. Okay, so we've booted into Ubuntu 18.04. So we're going to have a look first of all at gparted and see how Ubuntu has sorted out these disks and what Solus did. So yep, it done the swap and everything like that, so not a problem. Okay, so we are going to again delete all these. So we're off again, here we go. Delete all those and apply that. We shall leave that unallocated. And we'll install Ubuntu 18.04 long-term support. Okay, so we can erase disk and install Ubuntu. That's the best option, I believe, so let's do that. Okay, so that is Ubuntu installed, and we shall shut this down and install Solus Budgie once again and see whether we get any more favourable results from that. Okay, so we've installed Solus alongside 18.04. As you can see, same thing with Ubuntu, Solus Legacy, and there's the install and restart now, which I did. So, and then we got to the grub screen. Here, there's our grub screen. We've got the dual boot situation going on there. That picture wasn't so good. And then we got to this. That's first boot. Slightly different error, but nothing much was happening there. It sat on that screen for quite a while, so I ended up shutting down. And then we had second boot, and I believe that's probably the same error that happened with Ubuntu 18.10. So something's not quite right with the Solus ISO. I don't know whether this is intended or not intended. I'm not trying to give Solus a bad name here. I'm just trying to get down to the problems and the issues of what's going on here, and hopefully somebody can have a look at this and say maybe there's an issue. Maybe I might have to even go on to their fabricator, I think it is, because I know I signed up for that quite a long time ago, but I haven't used it for a long time. Maybe put it down as a bug, maybe. And because the thing that concerns me is you know, Solus is a good distro. So, and the problem here is if people want to get their feet wet in Solus, so they decide to dual boot with a Linux distro, they could end up losing everything, or they're going to have to, they can still back it up with a live disk, but then they won't be able to boot their system. So it's going to be a headache for especially people who are not sort of, you know, into Linux too much. They might be only new, they're just trying out, but definitely this is a bit of an issue if people decided, yes, I'm going to try Solus, but I still want to keep my distro. I'll dual boot. I'll install alongside because the option is there to install alongside. Not in every scenario, as you've seen, but if it was just your normal install to the whole disk and then you wanted to install Solus alongside, the option is there. So, and then there's going to be issues with boot, and you won't be able to boot into your own distro. So you can still access your files and back them up on USB and that, but it's just going to be a headache. So that's my findings. This has taken quite a while and took up a bit more time than I expected. I've gone a bit deeper into the rabbit hole than I thought I would have. But I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't being biased in any way towards using the one distro and decided to use something else, not just an 1810 but an 1804. It's the same scenario. So I want to hope that maybe we can get down to the bottom of this. I care for the fact that people might want to install alongside and it's not working, and then Solus might lose some potential users, and that's not a good thing either. So it doesn't matter what Linux distro you're running as long as you can run it and you're not getting issues. That's my main concern. So I hope you enjoyed this video, found it very informative, and thank you for watching.